live, everybody. What's going on? So today's rant is going to be about what Sanda is and how forms are functional in the martial arts today.
And
so
why forms are an integral part in certain martial arts styles, not all.
Okay, so let's. I guess if you want to start, we can start the talk. You want to start out here? We want to walk inside. What do you want to do?
We could walk us. We could walk around, and I can give a little tidbit about what Sanda is and what you're actually going to be learning. Because a lot of people is like, Sanda, what the hell is Sanda? In Chinese, Sanda means freestyle. Sanda means free form or free hand. Right? The same thing in Japanese is called kumite, free fighting. All right, so the whole idea is to put the techniques that you've been practicing in your kata, in your form, and in your self-defense, and put it to organic use and develop strategies of combat and fighting. That's what Sanda is. All right? So in Chinese martial arts, we got background music going on?
Yeah, apparently so. All right.
So in Chinese martial arts, in certain styles, not all styles, there's 4 phases of combat, right? Punches, kicks, grabs, throws, right? And this is based off of warfare art. As Shifu says, in any kind of war, if you drop to the floor, you have to get up as fast as possible. If you drop to the floor, you have less chance to defend yourself practically without getting hurt and out getting killed.
What's up, Mr. Mark Albert?
Mr.
Good to
Albert,
see you. Lauscher, how are you?
What's going on? All right. So in most circles of Chinese martial arts, you won't see much ground techniques where you're on your back fighting. Right? You'll see ground techniques where the techniques are on the ground. You're applying techniques on the ground, and you get back to your feet as fast as possible because it's based off of warfare. Right? If I'm out in the street on concrete and somebody takes me to the ground, I'm going to use my techniques to get out of that situation as fast as possible to get back up to my feet. Right? So all my techniques are based on that genre. Do techniques on the floor to get back up to your feet, not to stay on the ground. The more you're on the ground, the more chance you have of being seriously injured, hurt, things like that, because on the street, there is no such thing as a fair fight. Right? So this is what Sanda is based upon. But now we have to take that understanding and move it into the competition area. In the competition area, ground game is viable because you don't have that understanding of people, having concealed weapons on them.
Dominic, what's going on? Good to see you on here.
Rubbing your face in the concrete and getting rug burn and rug rash and all that kind of stuff, which will happen on the street, right? So in terms of that avenue, you have to know grappling, but you have to know grappling in a sense where you get it back up to your feet, not staying on the ground.
Keith, how are you? Good to see you.
All right. So that's basic understanding of Sanda in a nutshell. Now, for certain martial arts styles, they use the forms or katas, and it's called talou in Chinese, which means just form, as a base understanding for body mechanics. Body mechanics, movement, stamina, issue of power, isometrics, all this stuff you get from learning form and kata.
So can I just jump in here really quick?
Interject.
I'm going to interject a little bit here. So everything that Shifu's saying is absolutely correct, but I do want to state that a lot of people out there, and some people have a legitimacy. If it's not part of your system to do forms, don't do them. If you're just learning how to punch and kick and grapple and toss and stuff like that, that's fine. But if people don't understand, if a form belongs in a system, don't pull it out. The form is there. The form is a very big important part of what we're doing. So for people to say, oh, forms don't mean anything, forms are useless, that's because you're lazy. Forms, did I say that?
You said lazy? Oh.
Forms are very important, and if you're not doing them, it's because you're lazy. You don't want to take the time to learn them. You don't want to take the time and effort to put them together.
Or you said your instructor doesn't know how to teach you how to use the form in practical application.
And there you go, right? Form and function. So if you're just doing forms and you're not fighting, shame on you, because that means that you're not being able to put your application to use, and you're creating all of this not understanding or this ignorance where people say that forms are not important.
Well, forms are important as a piece of your martial art.
Absolutely.
Do you need forms to fight? In reality,
No,
absolutely not.
No, not at all.
Not at all. So people are like, well, then if you don't need them to fight, then why are you teaching the form? Right? That's the whole argument. If you don't need them to fight, then why teach them in the first place? Everything starts with movement. You can't put somebody you're teaching right off the street in front of a heavy bag and say, oh, throw a jab, this and that. You know, they have to learn, start somewhere. So people think the form is just as 30 movements of pre-arranged movement.
So here, let me put it to everybody this way. If you're teaching somebody how to throw on a bag, right, and if you're a good instructor, this is what you do. You give them a set type of techniques to hit the bag with, correct? And if you're doing that, you're creating a small set. And if you're creating a small set of strikes on the bag, in essence, that is what the form is. Wow, wouldn't you think that would be it, right? So if you're hitting the bag and you're hitting it with a couple of techniques and you're putting a good set, right? Because if you're teaching bag work, you're not just teaching one technique. You're teaching 5, you're teaching 6, you're teaching 8. 8 techniques in one shot. And if you're teaching 8 techniques in one shot, you've created a small set. So that technically is a form. So anything that has sets together that teaches form and function is considered a form. So if we understand that, then everybody is learning forms. Everybody is understanding and putting use together. Back then, when they were teaching a community of martial artists in one place, not 50 people, 100 people, what do? You teach them a form. What does that form have? That form is basically linked self-defense. That's all it is. The instructor said, hey, let me link a bunch of self-defense together in a set so that I can teach 100 people how to do martial arts, how to do their self-defense. Now it's up to the martial artist, not the style, because every style out there is good. Every style out there can work, and every style out there is awesome and wonderful and beautiful, but it's up to the instructor and it's up to the student to make that style as beautiful as it is. Period. But you take the form and you rip it apart and you do what it was meant to do, is to use those self-defense and combat use, to take your techniques and put the gloves on and put it to the use, put it to training, put it to the floor, do your rounds, do your road work, and all of a sudden, form becomes function. Forms for martial artists is like shadow boxing. It teaches us how to move, it teaches us how to slip, it teaches us our techniques that we need, and it teaches us how to apply them. Period. It's up to us to be experienced enough to apply them and get it going. Thomas Rizzo, how you doing?
Mr. Rizzo!
Mantis Man 2, how are you, sir? So important. So go ahead, Shifu. You look like you're eager to talk.
Yeah, when it comes to form and function, you have to understand the form, yes, but in terms of when Shifu was at Master's Night and teaching people drunken boxing, right? It's a beautiful form. It's devastating in terms of combat, but if you don't have any underlying basics in any kind of style, then learning a form will not do you justice, because you won't be able to have the understanding of basic combat to pick apart the form and see how it's going to work in this situation, that situation, this situation. And this is where the missing...
Larry, how you doing?
This is where the missing link is in terms of martial artists, who some of these guys, you always hear the whole thing as, oh, the form looks beautiful, but when they put gloves on, they're kickboxing.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
Because they're not putting to use the principles in the form. The form teaches you everything. If you listen to the form teaches you where the strikes go. The form teaches you how to be in the right place at the right time, which means what? Footwork. The form has the footwork in it. But you have to be mindful of the structure of the form along with your understanding of basics. Without the basics, I could teach you 100 different forms, and you won't be able to use any of them.
That's right. And experience is the key. So if you're not using, if you're not on the floor, if you're not doing your road work, if you're not experiencing and expressing yourself as you're working out, if you're not putting together and linking together these techniques that you're learning, whether they're in form or not, it's useless. If anybody out there is martial artists or not doing their techniques in real time, if you're not sparring on the floor, if you're not working your techniques, you're wasting your time. And what you're doing is you're creating ignorance for other people to say, hey, you know what? Forms are useless. I've been doing forms my whole life. Forms, weapons, sparring, fighting, the whole gambit. And I have to tell you, and the internals too, is the internals as well, since I was little. So without all of these pieces of the pie, without understanding my internals, without understanding my forms, without understanding weapon use, all of this stuff, this all puts right into perspective what sparring and fighting is all about.
Yeah, hold on. You said weapon use.
Yeah, weapon use. Right?
Why would you learn weapons in terms of learning?
Good.
I'm not going to carry a sword or something, or staff down the street. So, other than me looking cool and saying, well, I got a sword.
I got a weapon.
Why would you teach me a weapon?
Okay, well, the weapon. Why do we learn weapons? We learn weapons. We learn the weapons so that we understand the use of the weapon. We understand the weakness of the weapon, and we understand how to defeat that weapon because we're utilizing the weapon and we understand its limitations. Weapons are just, here we go, this is the cliche, weapons are just the extension of the hand. So anything that you can do with your hands, you should be able to do with the weapons. Period. Again, all it is another avenue of use. It's just another thing to use to catapult your experience, to catapult your understanding and fighting better. Period. So if you're not doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing in your martial arts school, start doing it. Because all you're doing is creating ignorance for people to latch onto, to say that we don't know what we're doing as martial artists. Period. You should be doing your forms. You should be doing your fighting. Fighting is what we do. You should be doing your fighting. You should be doing your self-defense. You should be doing your applications of self-defense during your sparring time, because it's not separate. It's all linked together. Really, really important, guys. So important.
And
wouldn't you say?
I can't say no more, but I watched a video of some instructors talking, and there was a big debate about kata and no kata and its use in a martial arts school.
Beyond Laoshi Shane.
Oh, Laoshi.
just took his test.
How's that leg feeling, bro? In terms of kata and no kata and how it's useful in martial arts and stuff like that, you understand something. There's umpteen different styles of martial arts. There's umpteen different styles of kung fu. These styles were bred out of practical application, right? So if I had a friend that I was sparring with and he beat my butt all the time because he did a certain technique, then I develop a technique to counter that technique, right? And then
Larry, thank you so much.
That turns into my way of doing stuff. And guess what? That's a style I just created, right? So what happens is when martial arts created up until the 21st century, styles evolve. Everything evolves, right? So if you're doing movements and you're changing things and expanding and evolution, well, guess what? You're evolving the style. It doesn't mean I have to pick out 31 flavors of different styles and melt it together. It's my experience and using my style against different styles, because that's the whole point of the style. You learn the style not to fight other people in your system, to fight different people with different types of styles.
Absolutely. Experience makes the fighter.
That's the whole point. So if I'm learning a form, it's to deal with people who kick. It's to deal with people who punch. It's to deal with people who grapple. It's to deal with this, so I have to use that style and use that form in that context, because my style is supposed to be used against people who are of different styles, not people in my same school.
Yes.
And that's what people get
confused.
That's what people get that misconception. Yeah. So you got to break apart your style and see how's that used against a punch, how's that used against this, how's that used against a takedown, right? And the masters back then were ages beyond their time. And Shifu said that you want to teach a mass amount of people those techniques, and not everybody's going to be able to do the same technique, right? So they create a form. Everything is in the form. Everything is in the form, right? Because a form is not it's a set base of movement, but it's a guideline. It's not here's the end all be all, right? And any martial artist can tell you one movement in a style has 1,000 different variations, right? Just like one combination in boxing has 1,000 different ways of applying it. And it's the same thing in the form.
And we've seen that.
And we've seen that.
Right?
We've seen that. We just seen that.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful match. Yes, the man lost, but he fought the top exponent in that genre. And we saw the use, the adaptation, and everything in boxing the way it was supposed to be used.
Well, we're not here to talk about.
We're not here to talk about that. No. All right. But but that's just an example. Yeah. And every single avenue of combat has that understanding, right? So I wouldn't, say, oh yeah, judo's crap, and I go in there and what? I'm gonna get my cookies tossed because if I fight the top exponent in judo, that's what he does.
Yep.
Right? But I wouldn't expect a judo stylist to come to a tournament and start putting gloves on and then think that he's going to be an equal to somebody who does stand up, right? So you have to do every aspect in order to be a complete martial artist. If your style doesn't have it, be honest with yourself. There's no shame in saying, oh, my style doesn't do that much stand up. Go do some stand up. Oh, my style doesn't do that much grappling. Go do some grappling, right? There's no shame in saying my style lacks or is limited because of this, right? Certain styles are limited. Be honest with yourself. There's no shame in that.
Yeah, I have to say that our system, because of the Sway Jiao, which is the war wrestling, because of the Sanda, the full contact, because of the chin-out techniques, the fighting and everything else, it's a complete system, and I feel comfortable, and I've always felt comfortable, and so do my students as well.
Yeah,
so,
we've had plenty of people come in here from all the styles, and it's like, oh wow, you guys are legit. Yes, because we practice everything. We practice what we preach. We don't water down and change and bring this in and stuff like that. And I want more self-defense, man, so I'm going to bring some Krav Maga in. There's no reason for that.
Your system should have.
Your system should have it.
Your system should have everything that it needs to be great fighters. It's for you guys to really break down what you're learning, put it together, and use it. Use it. Be proud of your style. Be proud of your system, and use it to its fullest. Don't just use the forms and just do forms and be a forms man. Put it to use. We're martial artists. What's first? Martial first. Arts second. Yeah. We are martial artists.
And the art encompasses everything. The art encompasses everything. Punches and kicks, self-defense techniques, weapons, forms, fighting, push-ups, sit-ups, weight training.
All of it.
That's all part of your martial art.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you want to consider yourself effective and you're just doing form and you put gloves on, and you hit somebody and your hand goes poof, that means you have no power. Which means you ain't working your body, you ain't working your push-ups, you're not working your stances, right? So why are we working stances? Stances are for takedowns, stances are for kicks.
Right, for rooting, so you have a strong center.
Stances not just make you look pretty when you're in your form and you're doing this, and another instructor was like, well, if I'm leaning back in the stance, I'm putting myself in there. That's not what the stance is for. The stance is for leg strength. The stance is for leg strength, the stance is for flexibility, the stance is for elastic power. That's why you're getting low in your stances. Right? Period.
So this whole rant is because there was this talk online about how forms are not function, and forms don't work, and forms aren't necessary. So for me, for Shifu, forms aren't necessary, because I've discovered, and Shifu has discovered, through good instruction, that the fighting ability, your fighting techniques, your strength, your movement and footwork and everything else all come from forms. And if you're not doing forms, or they're in your system and you don't want to do them, it's because you're lazy. It's because you're lazy and that's your... No, really. It's because you're lazy and that's your excuse. That's everybody's go-to excuse. Oh, forms don't work. Forms don't work because you're not putting effort into it. Period. Right? Eating with a spoon's not going to be effective if you don't know what you're doing with it and if you don't put work to it. Period. Put work to it. Understand what you're doing. And I guarantee it will help you out in the long run. But it's up to you. It's up to what you guys want to do. So I'm happy with what I got. Sifu's happy with what he's got. Our students are happy with what they got. They got a well-rounded system of forms, weapons, fighting, self-defense, the china, the throws, the sway jiao, right?
So that all encompasses, in a nutshell, what Sanda is. So when you guys come here, we're not trying to change your minds. We're not trying to tell you your style is limited.
Without a doubt.
We're not trying to change, have you drink the Kool-Aid or drink a lemonade, whatever you like to drink. It's just to expand upon the realities of martial arts. I go to other schools. I learn from karate instructor how to do certain things, how they do certain things. I learn from jiu-jitsu. I learn how they do certain things. I'm not taking their system, but I'm taking the idea, the concept of how they apply certain things and how it works when I do my style. So then I can make my stuff sharp. I can make my stuff viable. You can't just huddle in your cave and think, oh, I'm just going to practice this for 17 years and then I'm going to be able to beat everybody on the planet. That just doesn't work. It's not practical. It's not logical. You have to experience other people, touch hands with other people. So if I touch hands with a karate guy,
Chris McManus, how are you, sir?
What's up, dude?
Good to see you.
I experience how karate guy punches. Then I can explain. Oh, he punches this way. I punch this way. Maybe I can use my body mechanics in a different way. The same thing with jiu-jitsu guys do. We do the same chin on locks that jiu-jitsu guys do. Their entry to doing it may be a little different than the way I'm doing it. The way of doing the wrist lock, they may have a tighter way to do the wrist lock than I do it. I was like, oh, maybe I can use my wrist lock a little bit, tweak it a little bit. There's no shame in that. And people are like, oh, you're not doing Kung Fu anymore. Kung Fu is a concept, right? Kung Fu is a concept. Supreme skill through hard work. That's what Kung Fu is. So if I'm working and I'm learning, I'm doing Kung Fu, right? If you're working in your gym and you're hitting your bag for hours and you're doing your rings and your technique is getting sharp, guess what? You're doing Kung Fu. If you're in the cage and you're beating, and you're at the top of your game and you're doing this and you're good at ground game, guess what? You doing Kung Fu. Everybody's doing Kung Fu because Kung Fu is a concept.
Because everybody was Kung Fu fighting. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed. Guys, have a good night.
All right. So remember, October 22nd, Sanda's. We got that.
Sidetrack. October 22nd, Sanda's seminar. Good for everybody. Make sure you guys are here.
We want to see everybody there. We want to share. We want to share with you. You want to come share with us. Come work out with us. You're going to see how the Chinese do certain things and how it will embellish and encompass stuff that you guys do, and that's what it's about. It's about sharing. It's not just a 21st century concept. It's been done before, so get off your butts. And again, like Shifu said, stop being lazy, get off your butts, and come and work out with us.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. October 22nd, 9 o'clock sharp. Be here. Sanda seminar. It is filling up. There's not too many spaces left. Love to have you. Give us a call. Thanks so much.
Faith.